Happy day, everyone. Happy Monday. Let's kickstart off the week with some strength work. We're gonna have some fun today with just a little bit of core work, man. Some good times today. So buckle up. Let's get ourselves going through the warm-up. Our warm-up is going to consist of a dynamic triangle of 3 to 5 aside. Very important to focus on this. A couple key points here, and this is going to really pay off in our movements in our workout. So really focusing on that shoulder position today. Windmill, 3 to 5 aside. Again, too, focusing on that rotation plus the shoulder is going to help later on in the work set. Sumo, good morning for 5. Single leg RDL for 3 to 5 aside. And then a single leg good morning with rotation for 3 to 5 aside. Once we've done that, about 1 to 2 rounds, we're going to move into a practice round and give you a chance to kind of play with each of these movements in our work set, just to make sure we're comfortable and we're comfortable with the movement and or the loading that we're going to use for this work set. Our work set, 3 rounds. Following the same format we've been playing with for our strength the past little while. Not a lot of rest during the work set, but just some transition times to keep you moving steady. So what we have is a Turkish get-up sit-up for 30 seconds per side. You're not going to get a ton of reps here, but we want to focus on the control and that contraction plus rotation in this movement. From there, you're going to move into a 15-second kind of transition to rest to get yourself back up to your feet. You're going to do a high knee skip. We're going to show you what that's all about today. It's very straightforward. You're going to have a lot of fun with that one. 60 seconds total. And then remember, that's just movement-based kind of movement recovery. Rest 15 seconds. We're going to move into a goblet side lunge for 60 seconds. Rest 15 seconds. Into a high knee skip again for 60 seconds. And then we're going to move into that rest and finish off with our dumbbell shoulder press, 30 seconds per side. After the shoulder press, you get a full 60 seconds of rest. I know it's a longer rest than the rest of the work set. It's going to give you a chance to pull yourself together, think of anything you have to focus on moving into the next round, and get yourself ready. Each movement, except for the high knee skips, will have a 3-second eccentric. All right, try your best with the Turkish get-up sit-up to come down slow, but it's more along the lines of control than a true 3 seconds with that Turkish get-up sit-up. But besides that, very straightforward day. We're going to have some fun with this, get the body moving, kickstart it off the right way. So let's get ourselves underway and get you warmed up. Right, feet are under those hips. Let's take the arms up big and tall. Let's stretch it over to one side with a big old reach. Come back over, stretch to the other side, big reach. We'll come back to center, pulling those ribs in. Shrug those shoulders and pull them down. And then take it all the way to the floor. Touching those toes. Walk up the shins. We'll come down, frame a foot. We'll step back into your lizard. That inside hand is going to reach way up to the sky. We're going to rotate forearm to the floor. Then we're going to come back up, big stretch. We're going to rotate forearm to the floor. Big stretch. And then rotate. And come back up with a big stretch to the sky. Planting the hand, we'll step back into our down dog, reaching those hips. But again, setting those shoulders so we're really stable overhead. We're going to walk the heels back and forth just to make sure they feel pretty good. Just making sure everything feels good today in those ankles. We do a little bit of skipping so we want them ready. We'll balance it out, come back into our plank. We'll step the other foot up. Nice and square in those hips. We'll take the inside hand to the sky. Rotate forearm to the floor. Come back up. Rotate. Forearm to the floor, back up, and one more time, rotate, forearm to the floor, and back up. Planting the hand, we'll step back into our down dog, reaching those hips, walking those heels, nice and gentle. Good, a couple more. Good, come back into our plank, tiptoe those feet up, slowly roll the body up overhead, big reach. Little side bend, little side bend. Very nice. Come down with those hands. Let's get you guys ready to go. All right. If you'd like to do some extra gentle warm-up, scap push-ups, some protraction, retraction, please do so. All right. Take that down. I'm going to guide you through that first phase of warm-up. We're just going to kickstart off with a little bit of rotation and some hip work. All right, we're going to start our day off today with our dynamic triangle. So we're going to get our feet into our sumo stance just to give us some space in between the hips. We're going to turn a toe directly to the side, and the other toe on the ankle. We're gonna bring one hand to the thigh, one hand up to the sky as we kind of screw that arm into place. We're gonna draw the hip back towards that back heel as we take that hand down the shin. Reaching that arm up to the sky, let's take it all the way back up as we focus on that reach. So again, focusing on that slight kind of turning in that light bulb in the top, sets that shoulder, and then as we pull the hip back, we have to keep that arm in that nice solid position here. That is crucial as we slide down. So really focusing on that overhead position today is going to help you in that Turkish get up sit up later on. So really focus on that arm, and if you'd like to load it a little bit, there's nothing wrong with that, especially moving forward into that Turkish get up sit up. It's going to help prep, but make sure we keep that light load, or that load light backwards there. After that, we're going to keep moving on with that overhead position. We're going to work more rotation. So our feet are going to stay in our sumo stance. I'm going to screw that light bulb back in, and I'm also going to press down with the opposite hand. I'm going to draw the hips back, but rotate at the low rib as I reach up and reach down at the same time. I'm going to slowly come back up overhead, coming back to square. Keeping that arm overhead again, I'm just going to do that one more rep. I start drawing the hip back, and then instantly start to rotate. And as I rotate, I'm continuing to maintain that shoulder position that was there before in the beginning. Now the shoulder is going to point a different direction as I rotate. The key thing here is that our shoulder rotates with our torso and not on its own. So we're not trying to move the shoulder at the shoulder girdle, but make sure that that armpit is facing a different direction because of the torso angle. So really fight for that strong shoulder position and only take it as deep as you can maintain the shoulder. So don't worry about touching the floor if you can't quite do it yet. That's okay, take your time. From here, we're gonna stay again in that sumo stance. We're gonna work on our hinge. I'm gonna turn sideways, profile, so you guys can see my hip hinge. So I screw my feet to the floor, I set my glutes and ribs. From here, I'm gonna set my hand reference. If you'd like, it just helps give me a reference of my ribs and my core position. I'm gonna draw the hips back, keeping the knees slightly soft so I can feel those hamstrings kick on. My big toes are down the floor and I come to about 90 degrees at the most and then stand up nice and tall. So I'm hinging at the hip crease. From head to hip, it stays as one solid piece in that nice hinge and then stand nice and tall. So it's, imagine that we have a PVC strapped to your head, shoulders, and hips. That whole piece moves as one and we're not flexing through the spine, so we're not rounding in that back. So really focus on that drawing back of the hip to make that body tip. From here, we're going to continue with that hinge. We're going to go into a single leg RDL, which is going to allow us to really focus on the hamstring and get a good hinge going. So from here, you're going to bring a foot back into our kickstand position. Our hip is square to the front. You can choose to load this or not, but we're going to keep our upper back nice and tall and engaged. We're going to draw the hip back just like we just did in that good morning, keeping the weight through the midfoot with that big toe down. And then we're going to stand up nice and tall. We're only drawing the hip back just until we get those hands to about just below the knee to knee, depending on your range of motion. Again, I'm going to turn and face forward on this. As I hinge and pull my hip back, I'm trying to stay as square as I can to the front. So I'm staying nice and square to the floor as I come down in that hinge. So if you feel your body starting to rotate, stop your range of motion and reset, squeeze those glutes, set those shoulders, and try and draw the hip back as best we can with that nice square torso. Our last movement of our day is going to continue with that single leg movement. I'm going to bring that foot out to the front. So the heel is planted, toe is lifted, leg is straight. I square myself up through my hips. I draw my hip back into that hinge again, and this time I'm going to rotate towards the lead leg. Then I stand tall and open up those hips again. I reset, draw the hip back, rotate, and stand tall. So again, something to think about in this movement. As I'm drawing my hip back into that good hinge, I want to make sure that this foot, the big toe stays down, and and the weight is still through that midfoot, so that I'm really keeping that full foot contact with the floor. So really kind of take your time with that hinge. Try not to rush this one for two reasons. It's really easy to fall over. And the second one, we want to really zero in on that midfoot balance so we can get the most out of that hinge as we can. As a quick recap, we have a dynamic triangle, 3 to 5 a side, windmill, 3 to 5 a side, sumo good morning for 5 reps. Take your time through those, really work those hammies in that hinge. Single leg RDL for 3 to 5 a side, and then single leg good morning with rotation. So it's going to give you a lot of chance to work rotation, work on the hamstrings, get things fired up before we move into what's coming up next. So pause the video, take that down 1 to 2 times. We're going to go through the movements in this work set so you can work on it for a practice round and then get yourself fired up to take it down in the work set. All right, so our movements in a work set today are a little bit different. We're going to start our day off laying on the ground, working with our Turkish get-up sit-up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay on my back. I'm going to have one foot flat on the floor, the other leg nice and straight. The knee that's bent is going to be the arm that is up towards the ceiling. So I'm actively pushing this arm straight up to the sky as I'm pushing down with this leg, and my other arm is going to be out at a 45 degree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down with my hand, my elbow, and my foot all at the same time while reaching with this arm. So it looks like so. I push down, reach. I come into this kind of lean position on my elbow. I can stay here and then finish the movement and then just come down. Or I can push and come up to the hand and finish here. Then I come back to the elbow, come back to the floor. So I can do either one of those. Now I'm going to face the front so you guys can see that I'm really leaning into that elbow. So I have my leg out straight, knee that's bent is the arm that's holding onto the dumbbell. I'm actively pushing into the floor with that foot, with that arm, and I'm pushing that dumbbell to the ceiling. Now I'm going to push, and I'm going to roll into that elbow. So I'm really shifting over. I'm not trying to stay square in this. I'm getting that good rotation. When I come up onto my hand, if I choose that, then I'm going to square up a little bit more to my leg and my hip, but I'm still relatively rotated. The whole time I'm doing this, I'm pushing up to the ceiling, especially on the way down. So it's very important that we're actively pushing into the dumbbell. Just like when we do planks, we push the floor away, we're pushing the dumbbell to the sky. Now, a cool little practice exercise you can do for this before you start doing these Turkish get-up sit-ups is a little protraction, retraction with the arm. So what you can do, set up like you're going to do a bridge. You're going to pull your ribs in so you're in that nice hollow position. The arm is nice and extended, shoulder into the floor. And then all I'm going to do, keeping this elbow locked out, is I'm going to push the dumbbell to the ceiling, pushing that shoulder off the ground. I'm going to pull the shoulder back into the floor. Push to the ceiling, pull into the floor. And that's just a really nice protraction and retraction exercise. Very similar to our scap push-up, but with a little bit of load. So it allows you to heat the shoulder up, work on some scapular control prior to this, pre to this lovely Turkish get-up sit-up. All right? So take your time with these. These aren't super fast. You're not going to get a ton of reps per side in the 30 seconds that you have in this work set. We want to make each one count for that stability and that work through that rotation. Now, after we do our Turkish get-up sit-up in the workout, you're going to have a 15-second transition to get back up to standing. And what we're going to work on is a high knee skip. And we're just going to do it in place. So what you're going to work on is that high knee up onto the knee, switch. So we pull that knee up, come up onto the toe. You can even leave the ground a little bit, but we're not worrying about height. We're just working on that swinging through with the knee. We come up, and that knee and the arm swinging is what lifts the body up. So you can do one of two things. Stay with the toe on the floor, just get a little lift, Up onto the toe, good control through the toe and the foot. You're gonna feel some life in that calf and hamstring. Or like I say, you can swing, pop. Whatever you feel most comfortable. Now this is a nice little movement because it's gonna work on opposite hand, opposite leg. So I want you to really focus in on that opposite hand, opposite knee. So we're working on a little bit of unilateral rotation to get that power, to get that lift. So take your time with this one. It's kind of fun. Can be a little confusing, but it's not meant to be super intense. I just want you to get into a nice, steady flow with this movement as you go, because this is active recovery. After you're done 60 seconds of just steady state, you're gonna go 15 seconds of rest. Then you're gonna pick up your dumbbell, and we're gonna work on a goblet side lunge. So we're gonna get our feet pretty wide with our toes turned out. But regardless of how wide our legs go, we should still be able to stand tall and open up our hips fully. The dumbbell will be held up under the chin, and we're gonna think squat. So I want you guys to think squat as you take that hip to the heel. So we're focusing on keeping that chest tall. We draw the hip down towards the heel, keeping the chest up nice and upright, and then we push through that leg. So I only want you going as deep as you can keep that chest tall. So if you feel yourself, I'm gonna get rid of my dumbbell for this demo. If you feel yourself starting to hinge and come forward into a good morning, we don't want to go down anymore. We want to stop our range of motion because we want to use this as an opportunity to open up that torso position, that posture, the ankles and the knees for when we squat. So it's a great single leg strength builder plus postural builder to build into our air squats or back squats, front squats, every squat. All right, so really focus in on that posture. Now, if you're not comfortable doing the goblet side lunge, and would just like to do a side lunge, please do so, all right? It's totally legit working on that side lunge without any load because that can be a really challenging movement for 60 seconds, especially with a 3-second eccentric. Now, if you'd like to stay away from the side lunge, I'll have some other options on the bottom of the workout description, but one that's really cool to work your balance can be a goblet side scale. So we point that toe and we hold the dumbbell under the chin. We work on lifting that leg up while holding that dumbbell in the goblet position. So you'll just do 30 seconds per side as we work on that lift, trying to keep a nice straight line of action from shoulder to heel. So take your time with those, pick the variation you'd like to play with, and we'll make sure you're comfortable with those. Now, you'll get a 15-second rest. You'll transition back into your high knee skip, back and forth for 60 seconds. Rest 15 seconds again. We're gonna finish off with our dumbbell shoulder press or push press. But that depends on how heavy of a dumbbell or loading you have at home. If you have light enough load to shoulder press, I would prefer you to veer on shoulder press to build the strength and stability of that strict press. Because we do a lot of push presses in metcons and work sets. So if we can, I'd like you to work the shoulder press. But if you don't have a light enough load at home, then rock the push press as well, because you're still gonna build that stability and strength with that 3-second eccentric. So I'm gonna clean the dumbbell up to my shoulder. I'm gonna face the front for 2 reps first. So feet are under the hips. I set my glutes and ribs, so I have a nice stable torso from neck down to the feet. My other hand can be wherever it needs to be for balance. I'm gonna take a big breath. Press that arm straight up so the bicep finishes slightly behind the ear or even with the ear, depending on your range. Armpit is still facing forward and we're locked out at the elbow. I'm gonna pull the dumbbell straight down to my shoulder, 3-second lower, set, do it again. So I'm really fighting for that overhead position. And we're using a single dumbbell, so it's gonna allow us to fight for that overhead a little bit more and make it a little easier to get in that full overhead position if you struggle with that normally with 2. So this will give you a little bit more opportunity to find that good overhead position. Now I'm going to turn to the side and do a rep or 2, and then I'm going to show you the push press. So I clean the dumbbell up, I get in that good rack position, I push with the arm, find that good overhead, and then bring that 3-second dumbbell lower. Now the push press, we get that nice vertical dip. So my knees go slightly out, shoulders stay over the hip, and then I drive into that press. So I dip, drive, and then fire that dumbbell up. 3-second lower to the shoulder, set, drive, 3-second lower to the shoulder. So I'm still using that 3-second eccentric to work on pulling the dumbbell down to that shoulder position and making sure that I'm building that good awareness of that dumbbell in space and time. So take your time with that 3 seconds, really work for it, brace through that midsection if you're doing the shoulder press or the push press. It's got to be set to make sure we're getting that nice solid drive overhead, either stripped or with momentum. After the shoulder press, 30 seconds per side, we have a 60-second rest. You're going to move back to the top of the list, working through that Turkish sit up into our high knee skips and whatnot, all the way down the list. So this is a fun little work set, you guys. You can have some different loading if you'd like, or if you have it. Again, too, you do not have to use load for the Turkish sit up or the Goblet Side Lunge. Those are two things that you can allow yourself to do unloaded and still get a very, very strong benefit from those movements. So as a quick recap, we have a Turkish sit up, 30 seconds per side, rest 15 seconds. High knee skip for 60 seconds, steady state, rest 15 seconds. Goblet Side Lunge for 60 seconds, back and forth with a 3-second eccentric on the lower, rest 15 seconds. High knee skip, 60 seconds, rest 15. Dumbbell shoulder press for 30 seconds per side, and then you're going to rest 60 seconds and then start again. So we have 3 rounds. It's going to take you somewhere between roughly 21 to 23 minutes. So give yourself that time, but also make sure you warm up properly so you're ready for action. It's going to be a nice way to kickstart off the week for everyone. It's going to be a nice way to get our bodies moving after the weekend and the previous week that we had. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Let me know how this one goes. And as always, work for quality. Have tons of fun, you guys. And we'll see you very soon. Bye, you guys.